Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about a very rare grand water trine we are having in November 2025. In the description box below, I will add some more specific dates and information if you would like that. But yes, generally we have Jupiter and Saturn in exact trine in Cancer and Pisces. And we also have Mars having just left Scorpio, but Sun and Venus coming to recreate a major grand water trine as we build up through Scorpio season. I thought it deserved a full video on YouTube today, as I think that this transit that we're having will usher in a major paradigm shift, and we'll kind of be walking through a major life portal, major rite of passage during this time. So I wanted to come on and give you guys some of my thoughts about the nature of these changes in a stream of consciousness style. Also, I wanted to thank you all for your wonderful comments and messages that you've been sending, emails as well, wishing prayers and support for the difficulty I've been going through with my dad. Thank you all so much for that. And yes, also in the description box below, you can find this channel on social media. You can hit the thumbs up as well as share this video to help it get out there. And as well, we are doing offerings on Patreon as well if you wanted to see the monthly sign-by-signs and weekly tea-chats. So yes, let's talk about this transit. So I'm already feeling a different way of breath coming in. So I'm feeling like we're going into a different rhythm of the nervous system. As I'm feeling this energy fully, I'm wanting to breathe a bit more slowly. I'm wanting to really take my time moving through this. I'm not wanting to rush. I'm not wanting to get into that very electric Uranian energy that we've had, as we also have Uranus retrograding back into Taurus here, and it's making somewhat of a lightning rod right in the middle of this grand water trine. So we've got obviously Uranus in sextile angle to both Saturn and Jupiter, and of course opposing what is in Scorpio. So this is going to really galvanize this grand water trine, as this is also close in degree. Again, we've got Uranus in late Taurus, and we've got this grand water trine in late water signs. So this grand water trine energy is going to be harnessed, and the energy is going to be redirected into the generation of new reality. Okay, so this is very much almost like a quantum replication time, or sort of almost a multiplier effect, I feel, on our sort of quantum mechanical generation. What that means is a lot of new experiences are going to start generating up. We're going to start having things that we've never had before. We're going to begin encountering unknowns. We're going to begin encountering questions, challenges, and pathways that we've never been on before. And many long-running status quo elements of our life are going to begin shifting as well, as a lot of debris will be washed out by this rampage of water energy. Now, another thing that I got as I was meditating on this energy was that something has been blocked up for a long time, and now the floodgates are opening. So this could mean a few different things. This could mean that very stale life scenarios are now being cleansed away. This could also mean that something that we've been conserving for a long time is released, okay? This could mean that we have essentially saved money for a long time and now we have to spend, or we have been maybe reserving our thoughts on something, or we've been holding things inside, or we've been kind of sometimes separating ourselves from certain issues and waiting things out, or being more tentative with how we move in life. And during this time, all of a sudden, things move. Okay, so there's maybe no ability to be tentative in this situation. There's a difficulty with shyness, or a difficulty with wanting to withhold here. It's also very hard to kick the can down the road with things that have needed done. Okay, so a bill that has needed paid, some kind of new thing that has needed purchased, okay? Some kind of major change that has been placed onto the back burner will not be able to be continued in that way. So there is definitely a huge shift in the status quo here, and there is a movement. Okay, so anything that has been stagnant, anything that has been sort of held up, blocked, something will move. And sometimes it's not moved in the appropriate channel, as again with the idea of like a floodgate opening. This is not sometimes the most calm, organized movement. So, like, we might think, okay, in order to move this needle along, in order to continue down this pathway, it requires this kind of choice. Well, sometimes it's not exactly totally in our control. Again, it's like if you're in a rapid moving current, you have some degree of steering you can do, but at the end of the day, you are beholden to that current. So this is very much about larger overtone steering. This is very much about damage mitigation and also knowing what has more power than us, as well as, again, when you're stepping into a raging current, you may be the best swimmer in the world, but at the end of the day, if it's to a certain degree of power, it does not really matter. But nonetheless, being a good swimmer could be a mitigating factor in that context, but then also at a certain point, it doesn't matter. So these are kind of like marginal questions also coming up with these grand water trine transits. And I feel that most people have some kind of overarching power or current that they're trying to navigate during this time, and it's going to be very important to choose our battles, okay? Because of that, we can very easily get overextended, but we can very easily also begin to work on multiple lines that have needed worked on for a long time. Maybe there's an investment you've been needing to make for a really long time in yourself, and this is a period of time where it's possible. Maybe there's a problem you've been dealing with all your life, and like now you have the resources to face it in a way that you have not been able to before. It doesn't necessarily mean that facing it will be easy, but also one is now able, or one is now strong enough to face it. But at the same time, because of that, they then have to choose their battles in a lot of other places, and perhaps not have battles in other places in order to devote everything to this larger issue. So is this a time of pulling out of things? Yes, absolutely. This is absolutely a time of surrender for some people. Because in order to do what really matters, it may require all hands on deck. It may require all attention placed onto this one issue. Because if you get too overextended, or if you get too focused on other things, it's also very easy here to, I'm not going to say fail what really matters, but maybe could be regret in the future, or there could be insecurity because of how much we tried to be too much of an empire here, or too focused on multiple different matters or issues. So one area of power during this time of November and concluding 2025, concluding the snake year cycle, is leaving certain things or not making yourself do certain things, allowing rest. Essentially to be a good warrior, one needs rest, and one needs good nutrition, one needs good hydration, one needs to really care for their vessel in order to, face the most important battles. It's a very harsh time for any kind of self-afflicting nature, meaning, not giving your body what it needs, not getting the appropriate rest, not sometimes investing in things that make that possible. So a house that provides a restful environment, for example, a dependable vehicle, good enough infrastructure to get your daily chores or work done, which could mean for like a good computer for some people, or, some kind of good equipment, depending on what people do each day. So like, this is a time where, yes, the marginal utility is very important. And sometimes we can't withhold that from ourselves anymore, or we have to be very, at least, judicious about doing so and put very strict confinements on it. It's like, okay, for 2 or 3 years, I will live way beneath my means so that 4 years from now, I can do X, Y, Z. And this has to be like very rigidly, I'll say rigidly laid out at this point. It can't just be this kind of unresolved, like, oh, by sacrificing this now, or by having hardship now, someday there's going to be something that eventually works out for me, or I'm going to someday maybe have the right amount of money to finally buy that house, even though I've not put the exact figures onto the sheet. Like, we've really got to get out of these kind of blurred lines and these sort of like dreaming in shadow realities, and we do have to put more tangible limiters onto this stuff. Limitations are taking on a different form. Okay, we have a Jupiter-Saturn trine, Jupiter in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. This speaks of personal, individual limitations. This speaks of budget limitations. This speaks of Also, certain things finally coming together in a brand new way. I actually quite like this trine between Jupiter and Saturn. And I like it because it says to me that the human condition that tends to struggle with expansion versus contraction, right? Expansion with Jupiter and contraction with Saturn, is in somewhat of a positive angle. And that says to me that we can expand along the right lines and we can contract along the right lines, and that these things should not conflict with each other so much. So it's very good here to sit down for a while and think about, what needs to be reduced in my life? Where have things been overdone? Where have things been overspent? How can I turn that down and reappropriate that energy into areas in my life where things have not been done enough, or where things need more attention? Think about that. Think about that which needs expanding in your life and that which needs reducing. Because the events happening in our life during this time are going to help us do that in a better way, in a more thoughtful way, in a more sustainable way. And it's very likely also that we will get wonderful chain link reactions, or I should say wonderful sequential events, based on what we augment and what we diminish during this time. Whereas in some previous timelines, for example, like the Saturn-Uranus squares in 2021, or, certain, debilitations of Jupiter and Saturn that we've had, the Jupiter-Saturn squares of 2024, oh my gosh, these were times where it was very likely that we augmented what we didn't need to, and we reduced what we didn't need to. And now that's correcting here. So if you've had any outlying problems from like 2021, 2024, that you can kind of like step back to those timelines and realize, okay, that went out of proportion. Things that are out of proportion, okay? Habits that we don't need. Also things that we know we need to be doing more of, okay? This is a wonderful, wonderful period to let whatever mechanism inside of us that is telling us that we need to keep increasing things we don't need to increase, we need to keep reducing things we don't need to reduce, whatever mechanism is doing that can be transformed here, washed away, cleansed out, overcome, and we can change that momentum. We also are stepping into new phases of our own personal evolution. So we are not the same people past November of 2025. We are not the same people with the same pathways, with the same familiar relationship dynamics in our lives. We are not on the same line of inspiration in some cases either. Some things that inspired us over the last few years, or some things that we had maybe thought were like permanent elements of our personality or our life, will also change during this time. And it's likely for some people to need a different type of person in their lives too. So this can be a different type of love language coming in. This can also be a different type of friendship needed, okay? A different type of income or job needed for some people. And overall, a different kind of central focus needed. I feel that these grand water trines are transforming a lot of people's central focus. Like why I'm on this planet, like why I'm doing, what I'm moving toward, and why. As that's something that's very hard right now because of these retrogrades of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, Uranus back into Taurus. We have a lot of mixed information and a lot of like past and future conflict about who I think I am and what I'm moving toward. And we are, with those transits, called to continue dreaming and to continue, thinking about it, and even suspending disbelief sometimes that, it's possible. That's still important here. But what's also important is to begin to, it's hard to explain, almost like allow yourself to believe in these things enough to start to gain real ground. As when we get Saturn and Neptune going into Aries again in 2026, that really has to be happening. And it's almost nice to already have that kind of happening, meaning that we need solid material steps, even if it's as simple as planning, even if it's as simple as writing down, a free write for that larger essay in the future. The essay doesn't have to be done here, but the free write brainstorming does need to start happening. Just something material. You want to get things out of the mind space and to some degree into the material reality based on what's happening here, because it's also going to change what is inside to be brought out. Again, like this grand water trine is going to really redirect for some people, like their neurochemicals, okay? Different kind of brain setup for some people, different levels of dopamine, different levels of serotonin, different levels of, aside from that, trust in God, okay? There's a lot of spiritual, religious changes happening during this time. More than people know, that's a very kind of ethereal level change happening. It's not maybe seen as much on the physical, but, there's proof of it and evidence of it in the physical as well. But, there's a very different kind of role, I think, that spirituality and religion are sort of queuing up to begin taking past this period of time as well. So that's something to prepare for too. And also a different role that institutions are going to be playing as well as this grand water trine. Also being that there is the shutdown in effect still yet as I'm talking about this today, as of filming this today on November 7th, 2025, we're in the longest government shutdown in the history of the United States. And that is very much affecting many people's bottom line too, if you're thinking about material resources, but it's also affecting the larger group think, and it's affecting people's comprehension of the reality of what this society is and what it does and how it functions, as certain things do continue on seemingly as if normal, but other things are fragmented. So it's beginning to generate more of a general awareness about structural institutions and about the systemic infrastructural mechanisms in place and how they function and what they provide and what they don't provide. So that's another likelihood as well. Lapsing of certain expected benefits, for example, like food stamps lapsing. Also some food supply issues, right? Uranus back at the anaretic degree of Taurus at the same time as this grand water trine. Soil issues, food supply issues. Could be another reason why that has lapsed, but I digress. There is a need to understand what can be there for you and what can't be there for you. And there is a strong focus here on a majorly different mentality on resources, right? This grand water trine with Uranus at anaretic Taurus. The way we think about our resources changes after this time. I do see more of a frugality. I see more, frugality is not the right word. I see that people really have to invest in something much more important than they've understood it to be, is as best as I can explain it. So now people can't rent, they've got to buy a house or they've got to get that new car, as I was saying earlier. So because of that, people have to become frugal in other ways. Again, it's like changing up the balance sheet of life. And I've talked about that in the 2025 year ahead forecasts about how we were reappropriating along the balance sheet of life this year. So that's really coming into strong manifestation by now in November of 2025. And, in order to make some of these investments, you have to cut back in other places. But this gives you so much more than having those things in those other places. So it's like, what is your real life like? What is your day-to-day? What is your household like? There's just a lot of power here with Jupiter in Cancer to have a more consolidated household with stores, with things put back, with functionality, with reserves, okay? And really making something that has safety, protection, and privacy is very powerful also with this grand water trine. As you guys might have remembered, especially if you've been on my Patreon page, I've been talking a lot this year. We talked a lot this last summer in June and July, especially on Patreon about the nature of the private sphere during Jupiter in Cancer and with these grand water trines that have come up here in November now. The private sphere is a severe place of importance during this time, as more people have had to kind of immerse into the public sphere very recently, and since those eclipses during Virgo season, that has led to a reminder of what I need my private space to be, or what I need to have readily available for myself in a private sense. So again, this is households, this is places that you go that people don't know you're there. Okay, this is like hole-in-the-wall restaurants. This is like areas that not everybody knows about or are not super common or public. So this is something that may need investment for some people. This is something that, at this age, maybe now we need to be more considerate about having and not just thinking about anymore. Also, when I say this age, I mean like personally, like with what our personal age is, but also in this timeline, right? Like 2025 going into 2026, okay? Moving towards 2030, it's like the pressure is more so on now to like have our lives together and to not be super beholden on any type of, for example, governmental institution or benefit package or food stamps or any of those things, because there's very much this withholding vibe at every level right now. And it's like, what will people do? Like, maybe if I withhold this, like, people will do what I want them to do. There's this kind of very negative force that's functioning like that. So that's not just there. That's at every single level of humanity right now. So if it's not, governmental in nature, it will be, career focused in nature, or it will be monetary in nature, or it will be familial in nature, or it will even sometimes go down to marriages, like the spouse is like withholding things from us, or, it's like part of the human condition right now. So we're not just trying to blame in any one specific direction. This is a question of our resourcefulness as people. This is a question of the responsible decisions we have or have not been making for the last 10 or 20 years, okay? This is a question of ancestry, legacies, and heritages, okay? And this is a question also of present decision-making, and present decision-making that gives us exactly what we need in this moment, but also thinks about the future and thinks about what we'll need later. It's so important here with these grand water trines. Oh my gosh, so important here to have a think about present decision making versus future needs. We really can't afford here to be taking things day by day when it comes to our resources. And it's important sometimes to think 2 or 3 generations up and 2 or 3 generations down in a way here as well, while not, injuring yourself or hurting yourself with hyper frugality. Because I think that no matter who we are during this time, spending is a guarantee. With the Uranus at the anaretic degrees of Taurus and this grand water trine, the floodgates are open. Investment may have to happen. If you're lucky, maybe you understand, okay, this larger sum of money that I've been able to save now, it has to be invested and it's going to get a better return now. For other people, it's, okay, this now has to be exchanged for something else. So the sum of money now has to be exchanged for a house. And I'm saying goodbye to that so that I can have this other thing. Or in some cases, all of this worry and lost sleep over this avoidant person or this relationship that doesn't work right must now be exchanged for true care and compassion towards myself and my self-actualization grid. Okay, things like that as well. This is not just monetary or physical resource oriented. This is very much about time. Okay, this is about how much time you have to do things. This is about clearing paths so that your time can be properly invested in your self-actualization path and not be consumed by other forces that mean nothing in the end. And this is about then stepping onto that path with a linear focus and being able to move through that path in a way that suits the present and the future. So this is like boss mode here. This is like, I'm not wasting my time anymore. This is, I'm not, mean about this. I'm not haughty or arrogant about this new mental capacity that I'm gaining and this ability to sort of surf through time in a much more efficient and capable way with better life results. It's not about that, but it is about making sure that I'm not inhibiting myself or not allowing other people to just inhibit, take, while I'm in a state of difficulty or while I am unsure of what's ahead. So like very easy here to see parasitic infections, very easy here to see people preying on your difficulties, okay, or trying to capitalize on something hard that you're going through so that they gain through your loss. There is a lot of that here as well. So it's good to sometimes shell up a little bit. I will remind you, we have Jupiter in Cancer and retrograde, about to be retrograde in Cancer. And we have a grand water trine. So this is not about like just telling people everything. This is not about revealing the full hand sometimes. This is not about sometimes answering to other people or requesting permission either to do things for you, okay? This is really sometimes about decisions that we make as individuals without getting advice, without asking if it's okay, without requesting permission to do what we need to do. This is about like conversations with God. This is about, again, conversations with the higher self, okay? And a more unitary decision-making process at that level, which will require us to really actually understand what's going on in our lives for those decisions to be good ones, right? And I think that there's a lot of assistance. I think there's a lot of aid energetically in getting all this together. And there's a lot of clearing out so that, I don't know, the more basic mechanism or structure that we're operating within is more visible and less kind of obscured by clutter or obscured by other people's wishes or wants for us. So enjoy that cleansing process and try to consider how you can achieve the best results during this time as your mind evolves, as your situations evolve. Anyway, you all, I think that that's about all that I will say on this topic. Come over to my Patreon page. Check out, I've got the November 2025 sign by signs. Really nice forecasts for each sign. I've got weekly forecasts. I've got benevolence over there. That will be linked below. Again, thank you so much for your kind messages and comments. And do share this video, hit the thumbs up button, and comment if you get a chance, as it's super helpful for the channel. Thank you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.